Allez-y, mon oncle, je vais m'asseoir avec Cantine, je vais écrire ma main.
Vous êtes encore plus proche.
Allez avec votre soeur.
Hey,
dans ma valise, j'ai des gros cartons.
Elle ne peut pas répondre.
Non, je ne savais pas que tu me parlais. C'est quoi que tu donnes, ça?
Avec qu'on s'assoit en avant.
Qui ça?
Alors, allez-y en avant, vous autres.
Parce que quand je suis en arrière,
Oui, oui, absolument.
Des beaux cartons.
Bon, pense-toi d'abord. C'est pas gros.
We're trying to put tissues on the notes too.
allô, Maxime? Attends, on t'avait pas.
Tu l'avais pas. Parle pour toi.
Tu fais, Nathalie?
Oui, on tient. J'ai pas vu Bob. Ok, vous avez écouté les ok, parfait. C'est juste que je n'avais pas vu ça.
Alors, messieurs, dames, maintenant que tout le monde a une place, je vous demanderai le plus grand des silences, s'il vous plaît. La cérémonie commence à l'instant. Bonjour.
Hi. Thank you so much. My dad would be so excited to see so many people here.
Oh, Joe,
And
just tell them that you can follow in the French
oh yeah,
text,
and
just so they know.
yeah, and there's a everything I'm going to say is in French.
Dans le texte, ceux qui ne parlent pas anglais, vous pouvez suivre ce qu'il va dire
Yeah.
au fur et à mesure. Merci.
So in Isaiah 43:2, it reads, "When you go through deep waters, I will be with you. And when you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. And when you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned up, and the flames will not consume you." And I remember the first time I went sailing with my dad. And I think he was testing God. I was not sure that I would not drown, but I sure was praying for it. I was about 21 years old, and I'd been away at school for a few years, but had come home to visit, and my dad had just gotten a sailboat. And he did not know how to sail yet, but that was not enough to stop him from taking me out on a windy day. A little thing like not knowing what you're doing wasn't enough to stop my dad. And the wind blew hard and the boat leaned hard in the wind. And I remember standing on the side of the ship as we whipped through the small waves. And the ship was destined to flip over, but somehow it didn't. And the weight of the deep keel brought the ship back up, and we made it to shore. My dad was a man whose ship was destined to flip over, but he always made it back up. My great-grandfather was a liar and a criminal and a cheat. And my grandfather was a liar and a criminal and a cheat. And my dad he grew up poor, and he did poorly in school, and he dropped out in the 6th grade. He sold drugs and he ran scams at a young age. But things changed for my dad when he was about 21 years old. And that's when he found Jesus. This transformation reminds me of another verse that captures what happened when my dad found faith and forgiveness. Isaiah 44:22 reads, "I have swept away your sins like a cloud, and I've scattered your offenses like the morning mist. Oh, return to me, for I have paid the price and set you free. Sing, O heavens, for the Lord has done a wondrous thing. And shout for joy, O depths of the earth, and bring into song, O mountains and forests, and every tree." So, my dad didn't have much of a father figure in his own life. But when he learned that he had a Father in heaven, it changed everything. And when he learned that he was loved, and loved unconditionally, and that he was forgiven, it changed everything. When I was 21, I was a first-generation college student, and I was visiting home and clinging for my life to a sideways sailboat. And when my dad was 21, he sold everything he had, and he bought a bus ticket to Texas so that he could be 500 miles away from anyone that knew him and anyone that he knew. He stayed at a Christian drug rehabilitation camp and started studying the Bible. After drug rehab, my dad was ready to fulfill his new mission, telling the world about the new life he found in Jesus. And for 8 years, my dad traveled the globe as a missionary, preaching the gospel of Jesus. It was during this time that he married my mom, another missionary, and I was born, along with my brother Noah and my sister Chloe. And much like my dad, I was born into absolute poverty. But our home could not have been more different. My dad was born into crime and alcoholism and drug abuse and violence and fear. But I was born into a family that had love and kindness and joy and laughter. And my generation is the start of the Cash family, and the Cash family name being redeemed. After my parents retired from being missionaries, I got 2 more sisters, Molly and Quimby, and 1 more brother, Jude. And there were 6 of us, plus my mom and my dad, and we moved often. And my dad changed jobs constantly. He was always working multiple jobs, and I can't think of a job that my dad didn't have at some point. He did everything. He believed that if someone else could do it, then he could do it too. and he'd figure it out as he went along. My dad wasn't good at everything he tried, but he always tried. He jumped into everything fearlessly. Whatever the job was, he assumed that he was already great at it. And I know that some of you worked on projects with my dad, and you know that he never let silly things like inexperience or ignorance get in the way of his total confidence in himself. When I was a kid, I remember watching the Olympics on TV with my dad. And I would say something about an incredible athlete, and my dad would respond with, "He's just some guy. And you're just some guy too. You could do that." And anyone that's ever played with me on a sports team would tell you that my dad was wrong about that one. But you know what? I still tried every sport, and that's true of all of my siblings. None of us get embarrassed by trying. And when there's a wedding, all of us dance, and we dance hard. And when there's a karaoke, all of us sing, and we perform with the confidence of the best singer in the world. All of my siblings are successful, and all of us are respected and admired by our peers. All of us have a reputation for being fun. My dad was proud of his kids, and he's right in doing so. But it had to start somewhere, and I'm proud of my dad. I told you about sailing with my dad in the hard wind. And we were flying across the water going way too fast. And he didn't know how to control the ship. He would make a hard turn and the boat would turn sideways, with the mast almost perpendicular with the water. But the weight of the keel under the boat would bring him back up and bring the boat back up. And throughout my dad's life, he was constantly in high winds and difficult storms. And some of the storms came to him, and some of the storms he put himself in. But he had a deep keel, and his ship would always come back up. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." And my dad lived those plans. And now we live his legacy, anchored by faith and lifted by love, and unafraid to try, just like him.
Joel, what moving words. Your dad's looking down now. I'm sure he's smiling. And what you told us, really comes from the heart. But more importantly, your dad did break that circuit of poverty, and the DNA that's running through you and your sister and your other siblings has changed. And one person did that, and that was your dad. So I'm sure he's looking down and smiling at both of you for representing the Cash family. So congratulations. Your dad would be very proud. My name is Steve Roach. I have known John for 324 days. I don't know how I get privileged to speak about him, but he's that sort of character. I met him on the Appalachian Trail with Sylvie last year, and we impacted each other. John is a character, and any one of us who knows John knows he's a character. So that is how I met John. And I have a few words. I'm calling this Climb the Greatest Trail. John Cash was a man whose life was truly lived to the fullest. I think we would all agree. Though I only had the privilege of knowing John for less than a year, it feels like a lifetime of laughter, camaraderie, and inspiration. Last year, Sylvie, who I didn't know her name until recently, we called her Forrest on the trail. We hiked the Appalachian Trail, a journey that tested our endurance, it tested our spirit, it tested our determination. And John was our steadfast support. He was our rock, if you will. He was always ready with encouragement, with supplies, and of course, unforgettable humor. He wasn't just a supporter, he was the heart of our adventure. Along the trail, his wit, his character, and his generosity made him a legend. I have received 100 people who have passed on condolences to Sylvie, friends, and family. That's how much he made an impact. And you have to realize that only 3,000 people hike this trail per year, so that says something about John and his ability to reach people. Hikers far and wide knew and admired John, not just for what he did, but for who he was. John's humor was a gift, lighting up the darkest moments and reminding us to find joy in our journey. His support went beyond logistics, and it was his belief in us that carried us all forward. And his uniqueness, oh my goodness, it inspired everyone who crossed paths with him to embrace life fully, just as he did. To his beloved wife, Sylvie, your John was definitely one of a kind. Chloe, Joel, his impact will echo on the trail and in our hearts forever. One day we're going to finish the Appalachian Trail together in his memory, carrying his spirit with us every step of the way. Rest easy, John. You've climbed the greatest trail of all, and your legacy will always guide us. I'd like to introduce Chloe, one of John's 6 kids, who will speak next. Once again, getting to meet John, seeing how he's transformed the Cash family. And I've only met 2 of his children the last 48 hours, and you two are incredible. And that's a testament to your dad. And as you mentioned, he has transformed the Cash family, and it is up to you and your siblings to carry that legacy forward. Thank you.
That's what you are. unforgettable, though near or far, like a song of love that clings to me. How the thought of you does things to me never before has someone before. Unforgettable in every way, and forevermore, that's how you stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too. In every way, and forevermore, that's how you stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too.
Just gonna bring the whole box up before I start. Hi, my name's Chloe. I'm John's favorite child of the six. That's a joke, but I thought I would take this opportunity to say that one last time. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what to say today, and I've written and rewritten, trying to find the perfect words to capture who my dad was. To somehow sum up a life so fully lived is impossible. But then I realized something, and it's that as a descendant of the greatest storyteller who has ever lived, that it would probably be best to honor my dad to tell you a story. Because sometimes a single moment can capture everything about a person and who they really were, their heart, their creativity, their unique way of making the world better. So today, I'd like to tell you a story about my dad. My dad was a firefighter, as you can see from all the memorabilia to the side. He risked his life and he was numerous people's hero. But this is the story of him being my hero. I'll set the scene for you. I'm 7 years old. My dad loves fish. In the slideshow, you'll see his fish tanks in the background. And his biggest hobby at that time was his fish tank. It was a prize. It was a sight to see, just like everything else my dad does. He did it all the way. Some of my most vivid memories are at the fish store. It was in a mall near the house, and my dad could spend hours there, pointing out each vibrant colored fish and picking me up to see the fish on the top shelf. I remember being scared and holding his hand when we looked at the snakes and the reptiles. And one day, he buys me a fish when we're at the fish store. It was my first fish. It was a little round fat goldfish with big bubbly eyes. My dad bought me rainbow gravel and a little green and pink plastic plant for the fish to swim around. I named him Gil. My dad taught me to clean his bowl and feed him flakes. And once I had Gil, I had confidence. Going to the fish store after that, I wasn't my dad's bystander any longer. I was in the club. I knew what I was doing. I could talk the pet store lingo, and I could hang out with the adults and talk about fish because I was an expert at that point. At the pet store one day when we were there, I was looking at the tank that Gil originated from. It was full of fish swimming together in a pool, circling and swimming all together. I thought about Gil at home, alone in his little bowl, and I felt sorry for him for taking him from his family. At home, when we returned home, my dad had more than one fish tank, and one was a fish tank with 2 angelfish. It was my favorite of all the fish tanks that he had because angelfish are beautiful. It only had angelfish in the tank because they are aggressive towards other fish. That's a detail I didn't know at the time. And one day I decided Gil should have a social day. And I swooped him out of his little fish, out of the tank with his little tiny fish net, the one that my dad had bought me for cleaning his bowl. And I dropped him in the tank with the angelfish. I stood next to the tank and watched Gil swim with the angelfish, proud of myself for the idea, until something terrible happened. Suddenly, an angelfish starts attacking Gil. Then next, the other angelfish gets on the other side of Gil. And like crows, they're pecking Gil in the face. I'm reaching my hands in to try to grab Gil, but it was a fish frenzy. I began screaming for my dad, shrieking in fear that my fish was getting pecked to death by the angelfish. In a split second, in comes my dad. Without asking what happened, he immediately assessed the situation and he went into action. Before I know it, Gil is in my dad's hand and he puts Gil back in the bowl. We both took a big, relieving, deep breath and had a moment of peace before we saw something horrifying. It was Gil's eyes. They were gone. I started crying, weeping. What have I done? I put Gil in the tank with the angelfish and his eyes got eaten out. My dad looks at me and he says, "It's okay, he'll be fine." My dad hugged me. He looks at me and says, "His new name should be Ray Charles." Which I know is a little inappropriate, but that was my dad. And he disappeared. I spent what felt like hours watching my eyeless Ray, previously known as Gil, swim into his little plant 100 times, and I felt the worst guilt of my 7-year-old life. At this point, my entire social scene knows about the incident. That's my 5 siblings I'm referring to. Everyone is looking at my blind little goldfish in shock. After some time, my dad reappears into the room. He has a pair of surgical gloves, which he always had because he was an EMT and paramedic and he was always prepared. And in his other hand, he had a tiny package of googly eyes, the small plastic crafting item used to imitate eyeballs. He told us all to back up, and the room fell silent and serious as my dad pulled Ray from the bowl. With his 2 fingers like a peace sign, he pinned Ray to the countertop and dropped 1 drop of waterproof super glue in his eye sockets and wedged the googly eyes in place in his head. He then flipped my fish over and on the other side glued eyeballs into his head. My dad picked up my goldfish, blew the super glue dry, and dropped my goldfish back in the bowl. My goldfish had eyes again. And Gil, who went by Ray from that point on, lived and was a part of my family. With a few googly eye refreshment surgeries, He lived for several years afterwards. While I was trying to think of something to say today, I asked my two sisters, what should I talk about? I was in so much pain, nothing could come to mind. I had writer's block. And my sister Molly quickly responded, the Google eyes. Because it's a legendary story in my family. It's a ridiculous memory and story, but it's a time that my dad taught me that sometimes the biggest acts of heroism are unexpected. Sometimes it's the small moments, a father teaching his daughter about fish, finding creative solutions with super glue and googly eyes, or knowing exactly how to turn a childhood tragedy into a family legend that we talk about and know for years. That was my dad. He could fight fires and save lives, but he could also make a 7-year-old's world right again, and with nothing but craft supplies and imagination. He knew when to be serious and how to make us laugh. He knew that sometimes the best way to fix something wasn't the conventional way. Sometimes it was the creative way, the silly way, the way that would turn tears into giggles and mistakes into memories. As I stand here today, I realize that my dad didn't just leave us with stories. He taught us how to see the story in everything, how to find humor in hardship, how to turn accidents into adventures, and most importantly, how to love each other through all of it. That's the greatest story he ever told, and the one that we'll keep on telling. Dad, thank you for being my childhood hero, both in big moments and in small ones. We'll miss your stories, your laughter, and your creative solution to life's problems. But most of all, we'll miss you. Thank you.
Par-delà les frontières, les prairies et la mer, dans les grandes noirceurs, sous le feu des chasseurs, dans les mains de la mort, ils s'envolent encore plus haut, plus haut. Le cœur est un oiseau dans les yeux des miradors, dans les rues de nulle part, au milieu des déserts de froid, de faim et de fer, contre la tyrannie, il refait son nid. Plus chaud, le cœur est un oiseau. Ce n'était qu'un orage, ce n'était qu'une
Je vais le faire en français. Je vais dire ça en privé en anglais. Si je le trouve. Do I have it in French? Oh, it's there. Merci, Joël. Thank you.
It's last.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. I'm just like, oh. Thank you. Bonjour tout le monde. D'abord, merci d'être là. Ça me touche profondément. Je suis sûre que John est très honoré aussi. John, c'est un show-off, on peut se le dire. Fait que, il aimait ça grand, il aimait ça beau, puis je pense que we did a great job with the trio here. That's what I'm saying, that he's proud of us for doing that, and he liked to show off a little bit, so we would be proud of what we did for him. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Merci beaucoup. Ok, je vais prendre un petit respire. Ça se peut que ce soit un petit peu plus long. J'ai rencontré John lors d'un voyage au Mexique à Playa del Carmen le 12 février 2012. Mes deux cousines, Mona et Marilyn, l'ont vu marcher vers nous sur la plage. C'est Mona qui lui a adressé la parole en premier. « Do I know you? » Et John de répondre en insistant du regard sur moi. No, but maybe later. C'est ainsi qu'a débuté notre belle aventure. John venait de prendre sa retraite du métier qu'il a le plus aimé, celui de pompier. Il a sauvé de nombreuses vies et a failli perdre la sienne à plusieurs reprises. Il était celui qui se précipitait le premier à l'intérieur avec courage, d'abord pour sauver les gens et leurs animaux, et ensuite pour s'amuser, qu'il disait, à éteindre le feu et démolir les toits. John a vécu à fond ce que plusieurs prendraient 3 vies à vivre. Il a débuté sa carrière en tant que coiffeur-styliste à l'âge de 18 ans. Il a très rapidement dirigé le salon et établi une vaste clientèle où il a déployé son talent artistique. Son carnet de rendez-vous était plein, il était très en demande. Une couple d'années se sont écoulées et il a eu l'appel de la foi chrétienne. Il a joint Y1, Youth with a Mission, au Texas, à Tyler, Texas. Et oui, c'était l'époque des hippies et des communes. Il était acteur acrobate dans la troupe de théâtre qui jouait la pièce de Toymaker something?
Toymaker and Son.
Il a performé durant quelques années dans de nombreuses grandes villes américaines et dans plusieurs pays à travers le monde. Après la prestation, il rencontrait des spectateurs pour parler de l'Évangile et de son expérience. Il a reçu plus tard dans sa vie le témoignage de 2 personnes qui ont affirmé que leur vie avait été transformée grâce à lui. John a rencontré sa première épouse, Catherine, à Y1. Avec l'arrivée de leur premier enfant, Joe, John a cessé de performer dans la troupe et est devenu professeur de 2e année pour la communauté. Mr. John était un enseignant pas comme les autres, vous devez vous en douter. Il faisait la classe en marchant sur les mains, en musique et en chanson, et les enfants apprenaient bien tout en s'amusant. Certains s'en rappellent encore aujourd'hui comme étant leur meilleur enseignant. John et Cathy ont eu 6 enfants, 3 garçons et 3 filles, Joel, Noah, Chloé, Quimby, Molly et Jude. John adorait ses enfants. Il en parlait avec fierté, racontant leur succès, leur talent, leur vie. Il chérissait les beaux moments passés avec eux, leurs vacances au Colorado, les road trips, les Thanksgiving et autres fêtes. Puis, il est devenu grand-père de 5 petits-enfants. On peut dire qu'il a fait sa part pour la descendance. John faisait une grande impression sur les gens. Avec son charisme et son humour, il se faisait des amis partout. Il aimait raconter des histoires, parfois longues, avec des parenthèses et des détours. Il fallait avoir du temps et un peu de patience pour le suivre dans ses dédales où il lui arrivait de se perdre. Il y a aussi John, l'artiste. Il pouvait transformer une mope ou des retailles de bois en œuvre d'art. Aucune convention, aucune limite. Il laissait son imagination aller et créait des tableaux impressionnants aux couleurs éclatées. Il était tellement passionné qu'il passait parfois la nuit à peindre pour terminer un ou même 2 tableaux. Il jouait aussi de la guitare électrique, acoustique et m'inventait des chansons pour me faire rire. Un jour, alors qu'il visitait Montréal pendant que je travaillais, il est allé s'acheter un harmonica chez Steve's Music. C'est un icône pour ceux qui connaissent pas Steve Music, c'est la place à Montréal. Il s'est installé dans un parc, assis sur un bout de carton pour en jouer. Et puis, les gens se sont mis à lui lancer des pièces de monnaie. Il était étonné, car il ne jouait pas si bien. Il a réalisé un peu plus tard dans la journée qu'il était au carré figé avec les itinérants et les clochards. Après notre rencontre au Mexique, en février 2012, il était venu me visiter au mois de juin suivant. Il disait qu'il allait faire un petit tour, il est resté 1 an. Il est ensuite retourné auprès de ses enfants durant 2 ans, à Independence, Missouri, où il a travaillé dans une cour à bois. J'imagine que ça, il ne l'avait jamais fait. Il s'est dit, un autre métier, un de plus ou de moins. On se visitait alors quelques fois par année. John et moi, nous sommes mariés le 11 avril 2015 au Kansas, tout près de Independence, Missouri, où il résidait. Après notre mariage, John a émigré au Québec définitivement le 24 juin en bon patriote. Il a essayé d'apprendre le français dans ses classes d'intégration, mais il avait beaucoup plus de succès à faire rire les autres qu'avec la langue de Molière. John a trouvé une nouvelle famille ici. Michel, Pierre, Yannick sont devenus les frères qu'il n'a pas eus. Il aimait beaucoup aller pêcher avec toute la famille. Il participait au projet de rénovation du camp, notre camp de pêche. Je dis notre, mais il n'est pas moi. Le camp Michel, Yannick, puis leur ami Claude. On dit notre camp de pêche familial. Et il était inspiré par la patience et le savoir-faire de mon frère Yannick. Il aimait aussi faire de la raquette, du 4 roues, profiter de nos apéros et de nos copieux repas. John a été un bon, beau papa pour ma fille Marjolaine. Elle a bien appris l'anglais avec lui. Et puis, est arrivé son beau-fils, Maxime, pompier comme lui, et son petit-fils, Louis-Félix. C'était sa famille québécoise. Il était heureux, mais il s'ennuyait beaucoup de sa famille américaine. Il en parlait souvent. Il avait parfois le mal du pays, la culture américaine lui manquait un peu, et il se plaignait surtout de nos hivers qui ne finissent pas. John aimait la chaleur. Je ne l'ai jamais vu suer une seule goutte durant l'été. Il fallait vraiment qu'il m'aime pour accepter de vivre ici. John était un être exceptionnel, non conventionnel et qui pensait outside of the box. Il ne faisait rien comme les autres et ne se souciait pas du jugement d'autrui. Il était très généreux. Il m'a beaucoup aidé avec mes nombreux projets de construction et de rénovation. Sans être un expert, il était très habile de ses mains et menait à bien toutes sortes de projets. Lorsque nous sommes arrivés à Baldwin Mills, où on habite présentement, il a construit le poulailler car ça faisait au moins 2 ans que je rêvais d'avoir des poules. Je n'arrêtais pas de l'achever avec ça. Et ce qui n'était pas possible à Mont-Saint-Hilaire. Il y a 2 ans, au printemps, John a décidé que ça nous prenait un cabanon. Il voulait quelque chose d'unique et d'original. Hein? Rectangulaire, lui, non. On oublie ça, là. Il l'a construit en forme de pentagone. Une vraie folie, ne faites jamais ça. Je vous le dis tout de suite, là. Essayez même pas. Ça a pris le double du temps prévu, mais il est arrivé et je dois dire que c'est très unique. L'hiver dernier, John m'a accompagné durant 3 mois alors que je marchais sur le sentier des Appalaches avec Steve. Il conduisait le VR et me retrouvait à chaque croisement de route où c'était possible pour que je puisse dormir confortablement au chaud et manger des bons repas que je cuisinais. Il a voyagé sur des routes sinueuses et escarpées où je n'aurais jamais voulu conduire moi-même un VR de 23 pieds. Lorsqu'il m'attendait, parfois durant 2 ou 3 jours, il rencontrait d'autres marcheurs. Il aidait tout le monde. Il les nourrissait, leur offrait à boire, leur donnait des livres en ville pour se ravitailler, il pensait leurs ampoules. Il a même hébergé un couple et leur chien trempés, boueux et transis de froid en pleine nuit. Il était ce qu'on appelle un trail angel. Évidemment, il racontait ses histoires à qui voulait bien l'entendre. Mon Johnny Cash est devenu une légende sur le sentier des Appalaches, comme l'a si bien dit notre ami Aphib, son trail name, Steve. J'ai beaucoup appris avec John sur la culture américaine, la politique, Dieu et la vie. Et cela, toujours en respectant mon rythme et mes questionnements. Il avait du vécu. Il prévoyait écrire sa biographie. Je crois que ça aurait été toute une œuvre et je vous garantis qu'on aurait bien ri. Mais il n'a pas eu le temps. Comme il n'a pas eu le temps de retourner en Caroline du Nord, dans les Appalaches, pour aller aider les victimes des inondations de l'ouragan Hélène, ce qu'il prévoyait faire au printemps prochain. Il est parti trop vite, trop tôt. On avait encore des belles années devant nous et plusieurs belles aventures et voyages qu'on voulait faire ensemble. La vie en aura décidé autrement. Il me manque tellement. John, tu as été le deuxième amour de ma vie. Tu m'as tellement aimé. J'ai été choyée. Tu resteras pour toujours dans mon cœur, dans mes pensées, et tu m'accompagneras dans mon quotidien et dans mes futures aventures. Et ce, jusqu'à ce que nos âmes se retrouvent enfin. Je t'aime. Merci. Merci tout le monde.
So we'll have a reception back at the house, and everyone's invited to come and eat and tell stories and all that. So I hope we see you guys there.
Yeah. Ceux qui n'ont pas compris, vous êtes évidemment tous les bienvenus à la maison. Fait que, on a préparé un goûter, les drinks et party time! Fait que vous êtes tous les bienvenus. Je pourrais vous donner l'adresse. Je ne sais pas s'il y en a qui voudraient le mettre dans leur GPS pour les gens qui ne sont pas venus. Marjolaine, je vais demander à Marjolaine puis Maxime d'y aller tout de suite. Oui. Puis les portes sont toutes débarrées, on ne barre pas les portes à Baldwin Mills. Mais elle pourra être là pour vous accueillir à la maison. Puis nous, on a quelques petites choses à finaliser ici, la famille proche, et puis on se retrouve tout à la maison. Fait que je ne sais pas s'il y en a qui veulent. Je vais écrire l'adresse, c'est 105 chemin à l'art, Quaticook. On dit Baldwin Mills, mais c'est Quaticook. Alors, vous êtes tous les bienvenus, ça va me faire plaisir, nous faire le plus grand plaisir pour ça. Je vais écrire l'adresse ici, je vais la laisser en avant, ceux qui veulent le rentrer dans leur GPS pour trouver le chemin plus facilement. Je vous laisse ça. Oh, s'il y a des gens qui veulent laisser un petit mot sur les feuilles, je sais qu'il y en a qui l'ont déjà fait directement sur le site ou d'une autre manière, c'est pas obligatoire. Soyez bien à l'aise, mais si vous avez envie de laisser une petite note, vous pouvez le faire ici à la main. Merci.